It is hard to believe, but this is no joke. This is not a simulation. This is not a dream. 5 minutes ago, Luke Skywalker was here, in a galaxy far, far away, living his normal life, feeling the warm, familiar force like an old friend. He was sitting in his X-Wing fighter cutting through the stellar vacuum, heading to some forgotten outpost to deliver critical data to the rebels. Everything was quiet, peaceful. He felt the cosmic currents flow around him, and then, suddenly, everything went wrong. It was unlike any hyperspace jump he had ever experienced. It was more of a tear than a transition. One moment there was a starfield, and the next, a screaming, chaotic, oily darkness that didn't just devour light, but devoured sound too. His X-Wing was spat out into the orbit of a planet that could only be called a cosmic wound. It was red, black, and radiated such unbearable pain that Luke felt dizzy. And there was a smell. Not the smell of space or burnt metal, but the smell of rust, prayers, and fear which seemed tangible. He instinctively reached out to the Force and it answered, but not with its usual calm. It was here, yes, but it was sick. It was permeated with such immense, such incomprehensible grief and fanaticism that it felt like the scream of a billion voices trapped in his skull. It was the dark side, but magnified to cosmic, insane proportions, far more ancient than any Sith. It felt like an ocean of darkness, and he was a speck of sand within it. He barely managed to land his fighter among the rusty spire-like buildings. It was an Imperial hive world, though completely unlike any he knew when he was surrounded. These were not the familiar stormtroopers. They were taller, more massive, and their armour was matte black, bearing red symbols he had never seen. They held what he recognised as laser rifles, but their weapons were larger, and the gaze he felt through the slits of their helmets was empty and cruel. "Halt, xeno-mutant," one of them growled, his voice distorted by a vox filter sounding like metal scraping on stone. "You are within the bounds of the Imperium of Man. Your unsanctioned psycho potential has been detected. Surrender in the name of the God Emperor or be purged." Luke frowned, his hand resting on the hilt of his lightsaber. "Psycho potential? I don't know what you're talking about. I am Luke Skywalker, and I come in peace." "In peace," the soldier repeated with disbelief before letting out a dry, joyless laugh. "Peace is a lie. There is only the eternal war. Purification. Destroy the heretic." In that instant, Luke activated his lightsaber. The green blade hissed out of the hilt, casting a familiar emerald sheen on the grimy, blackened ground. The soldiers paused. They were not afraid. They were puzzled. "Heretical weapon! Warp energy!" the commander shouted. It was not a battle command. It was a statement of defilement. Luke felt a wave of rage and disbelief wash over him. These people knew no mercy, no negotiation. They knew only destruction. He deflected the first volley of shots, and it was as easy as warding off raindrops. But when his blade cut through the first soldier, the man did not simply fall. His armour tore and the soldier screamed, his final cry not of pain, but the name of his god. It made Luke flinch. He cut through them, moving with the grace and precision the Force granted him. But every soldier he took down was simply replaced by 2 new ones, emerging from the pitch-black smoke of the hive city. He realised the terrifying truth. These were not droids, as the Jedi had fought before, nor were they even Imperials in the sense of the Galactic Empire. These soldiers were living fanatics, each one willing to die with joy in the name of their Emperor. They did not value life, not even their own. Suddenly the Force warned him of a new presence. It was old, cold, and permeated with an aura of official, institutionalized horror. He felt his mind being probed, as if someone were digging around in his head. "Enough!" The voice sounded not from a speaker, but directly in his brain, forcing him to one knee. "I am Inquisitor Vane. You are dangerous. Your Force is an uncontrolled gift of the warp, and your so-called peace is a mockery." A figure appeared before him, not a soldier, but something far worse. It was a tall man in thick black armour with gold trim, his face hidden in the shadow of a hood. He held not a sword, but a symbol, a massive flaming seal. "I am not a heretic," Luke choked out, rising. "I am a Jedi. We use the Force to protect life." Inquisitor Vane made a sound like rustling parchment. "Life? Life is suffering, necessary for the glorification of the God Emperor. Your Jedi are psychomutants who should have been burned to ash 1,000 years ago. Your blade is the devil's technology. Your faith is a ridiculous weakness. Vane did not fight with a blade. He struck with a thought. A wave of panic, horror, and self-flagellation crashed over Luke. He saw images in his mind, cosmic battles, demonic entities dancing in his subconscious, and the face of an old man on a golden throne who both suffered and demanded endless sacrifice. This was the warp, and it was tangible. Luke screamed, falling. It was not physical pain, but moral suffocation. He tried to find the light side, that thread of hope and calm that Obi-Wan had taught him. But in this galaxy, that thread was thin as hair and almost indiscernible beneath the burden of an ancient pervasive darkness. Your light side is merely an illusion, boy. Look around. Here there is only chaos and the order established at the cost of billions of lives. Accept it. Bow to the real authority, and you will be useful as a tool. You are strong, I see, but you are blind. Luke felt his consciousness tear. He closed his eyes and pushed away all the horror Vane was trying to pour into him. He did not fight the warp. He fought despair. He remembered Leia, Han, and the tiny spark of hope he always carried within himself. He stood up, his eyes shining. He was alone, his force tainted by the pain of this world, but his hope remained untouched. I will not become a tool. My faith is not a weakness. It is the only thing alive left here, Luke said. He used the force not to attack, but to distract. He lifted a massive chunk of rusty metal and hurled it at the Inquisitor. Vane was astonished by his defiance, and that moment of hesitation gave Luke his chance. He leapt back toward his X-Wing. The soldiers opened fire again. Luke scrambled into the cockpit, ignoring critical system warnings. I can't save this world, Luke whispered, feeling the full weight of this galaxy. But I can escape it. He took off, feeling thousands of eyes filled with hatred and fanaticism tracking him. He jumped into the unknown, leaving behind a planet that knew no mercy. He knew one thing. His small, bright spark of hope was no match for this eternal, unrelenting darkness. This was a victory of survival, not salvation. And it was the most terrifying realization of his life.